Hey, it's Halloween.
I know.
Whoa.
Isn't it crazy how fast it got here?
I mean, this is like somebody's favorite day of the entire year.
Yeah, it's true. It
Who is
is. It
that?
just it just it just got here so fast.
Like Labor Day. Labor Day, you thought, okay, everybody's going to start with the pumpkins, and then all of a sudden, from Labor Day to the end of October, boom, it's gone.
It was so wild too. I mean, obviously, like I view it, I start thinking about it in September and I don't decorate. I start putting out like stuff, but very generic. It could just be fall stuff. But I typically don't put anything outside Halloween till October 1st. Inside, different story, outside, whatever. But it literally, I mean, maybe it's because of where I work. I was getting Halloween pumpkin beers, fall beers. I had to order those. I got those in July.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And for
And then I just
Oktoberfest
sat,
and all of
yeah,
that.
and then I just sat on them. So, but we're here. We got some great weather finally in Texas. So it definitely feels like fall, and that's awesome.
It's nice that the weather fits the season.
Uh-huh.
You know that it's crisp out there, and so for Oktoberfest, for Halloween and all, it actually is cool. You need to put on a jacket or a hoodie and all, and it really kind of fits. But you're talking about starting in October with putting out the decorations and all. Like my sons, they've got these 40-foot high uh, decorations. And I think I even texted you back around uh, Labor Day or even a little before. Like Lowe's had a huge display of all of the things they were so they're selling the stuff a month in advance of people putting it up, getting ready for it. But it's fun to walk around the neighborhood and lately over the last decade or so, a lot of the decorations light up and they
Yeah.
have and they have motion sensors, so when you walk past it, the ghouls start to cackle, and it's really pretty cool.
Yeah, we've got our I've been upgrading every year because some of the decorations that I have are just they just got beat up, and at the time they were good, but I mean they're 5, 10, 15 years old, so they're like it's their last one. So I switched two of them out this year. And we got them, but they're now like kind of in the backyard, or on the fence or whatever. I switched two of them out this year for some more high end animatronics. I got a animatronic zombie. It's just half of his body, and you stick him in the ground. And when you walk up the sidewalk, he just starts to move. Very cool. And then the other one I got is just a face, and it looks like there's a body, but you put it like on like the fence, like on the other side of the fence. So when it just kind of creeps up like this, like it's moving. Yeah, those are cool. So we got those up right now. But man, we're ready to go with this. And I'm probably the only one around my neighborhood that is decorated. We have seen some other houses and all that. But yeah, we're ready to roll full steam ahead. This is it. It all brought to this point, and it has been a nonstop horror ride. So very
And
excited.
yeah, and for those that are watching and listening to our show, check in your neighborhood. Google, Halloween displays near me, and sometimes the local news outlets also will list the addresses of some of the places in the neighborhood that really go out of their way, and it's fun to kind of drive around and see that. And then, of course, uh, I think more and more people are starting to set up little spook houses in their garages or in their yards. Across the street from my son, there's a neighbor that really goes all out, puts up this huge tent, and then has all kinds of spooky things going on, and invites the kids in the neighborhood to go through it. And I mean, you're no stranger to spooky stuff because you
Oh,
relish that stuff. That, in fact, that's how we initially got together.
that's true.
I,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
I met
absolutely.
you and invited you on my podcast, and all because you had done research into strange paranormal stuff that goes on around our community.
There's a lot of it. And, we just, it got me thinking today, of course, being Halloween, got me thinking about over the years, how many people have encountered something that they just don't know what it is? They
Yeah.
can't explain it. It's the
Right.
unexplainable. And then how many people have encountered stuff that they're 100% convinced it is something from the other dimension, the other world. And I tell you what, I believe it. I believe more people have encountered something, they just don't want to admit it.
That's it too. I think that there are times that people have experienced something, but they want to tell somebody, but they're afraid somebody's going to look at them cross-eyed and say,
Mhm.
yeah, right. But
Absolutely. What about you? I mean, has there ever been a time in your life where you're like, something happened, whether it's at your house, whether it's at somebody else's house, or maybe you were just visiting somewhere?
what actually, being from Chicago, my daughter and I a few years ago went on it's an evening kayak tour down the Chicago River. And I don't know if people know, but along the Chicago River, there are like escape hatches that were used if the river was to suddenly rise. Those would act as like places for water to escape. Well, there was a lot of discussion that back in the 20s, in the days of the mobsters in Chicago, that sometimes if you wanted a body to disappear, you'd take it by boat along the river and you'd open up one of these hatches and stuff the bodies so that they would either deteriorate or whatever. But there was talk that sometimes people that would go for a little ride down the river would hear sounds, or some of these doors on these hatches would slam. And I'll tell you, my daughter and I, along with probably another dozen other people, were kayaking down the Chicago River on this tour. The guide is telling us about it, and I swear to you, I heard something. I heard a door slam, and as we went past it, I said to the guide, I heard something." He said, "Yeah, I've heard it before too, but we're not sure if it's real or not." But
Huh.
you leave with that memory and that thought, and if you ever go back that way again, you're going to be watching for it. The Chicago Water Tower. I mean, where
Yeah.
the fire, the Chicago fire was, the water tower is erected, and they say that late into the evening, sometimes you hear voices in the water tower, and they think it's Mrs. O'Leary or something that's crying out, telling everybody to get out of the city. So there's lots of stories, and I mean, you can pass them off as nothing, but there's other people that swear it's true.
See, I always think that too, especially in a city like Chicago, where any history is there, any major tragedy, anything like that, there's going to be some sort of energy, something there that could cause it. We don't know what it is. We have no idea if it's just a reminder. We have
Right.
no idea, but there's something there that could cause it. Um, and I think that's in every major city. I think that's in every major building that has a history to it, a hospital, you know, there was a mental hospital in Michigan, in Northville, Michigan. And some of you guys out there that watch the show from there, you'll know this. And it was the Northville Psychiatric Hospital. And it was huge. It was actually groundbreaking for how big it was and how advanced it was at the time. There's a lot of good and bad history with that hospital. Good as in, they did a lot of things for patients. Bad as in it started to run out of money and they started to really cheap out things. So a
Yeah.
lot of patients really just didn't get the care that they needed. There was a guy that was running it that actually did a lot of bad things. We'll just say that. And it got neglect. Well, that hospital eventually got shut down, but that building stayed there forever. Now, this hospital, just to kind of put it in perspective, was huge. I mean, huge, but it was all surrounded by woods. And in those woods were little offshoot buildings. Some of them were, they called schools for some of the patients that they could actually take there and try to teach them stuff. They weren't exactly like the patients that needed to be locked up, you know, they just didn't need to be out in public. There
Right.
was all kinds of stuff. And there was also underground tunnels that you could travel in between when they had to transport patients, supplies, things like that. There was an underground pool. It was wild. Well, it became a huge hotspot for people like me and other people to go and just explore urban exploration, things like that. And you get in big trouble going there, big trouble. But we probably went a dozen times. And we went down in the tunnels probably 2 or 3 times. I did an episode on the show last year about this. You want to talk about a place that's haunted and a place that has things that you have no idea what's going on there. We were down in the tunnels.
Ooh.
Underground. It's dark. So you have to have lights and you cannot get lost. These tunnels go for miles and you don't know where they're going to come out at. So you need to make sure that you are somehow marking where you're going, and you need to make sure that you stay on that path. And we were down there. And the other thing is, you don't know who else is down there. Homeless people, drug dealers, other things. And you would run across rats. You would run across just stuff that was unexplainable. We remember walking out and we saw the big empty pool, and there's wheelchairs in the pool and just filing cabinet. It stinks. It's disgusting. No water, you know. But I remember walking in the tunnels and we kept on hearing voices. So we stopped and we would hear the voices. It wasn't very strong and you couldn't make out what they were, but you could hear them. And then it sounded like they was getting louder and louder. And we were like, somebody's down here with us. A, do we need to let them know we're here so we don't get shot? Or B, do we just get out of here? Well, we started to go down a different way to circle back. And there were these holes in the walls, big holes. Like I could walk through them, you know, maybe wear and tear or something like that.
Right.
But in these holes in the walls, there was rooms filled with candles, and they were on, like they were lit. And we're
Really?
like, yeah. And we're looking at these rooms. And I say they're rooms, but essentially it's as if there was a hole in the wall and they just made a little like room out of it, like cove, you know, and you could walk through it and whatever. And there was 3, 4, 5 candles lit. There was no sleeping bags or anything on the ground, but on the walls was all kinds of different symbols, weird things that I've seen enough horror movies to go, yeah, I'm good. We're not going to play here. And we turned around and we went to leave, and then we would find another one. There were 3 or 4 of these rooms, but we kept on hearing these whispers get louder and louder. And man, we booked it out of there. We got it, and we were covered in like dirt and dust, and it's, I'm telling you, we have seen things. We have seen a chair on the second floor from the outside on the second floor. We've seen a wheelchair just go whoosh, right out the window. We've seen it inside looking in the window, shadows walk by. I mean, this place is creepy. Now it's gone. It's gone. They've leveled it.
Oh, they did.
Yeah, allegedly and this is just recently in the last 5 years, they allegedly filled in the tunnels, which is creepy because they didn't go down there to look to see if anybody was living down there. They didn't go down there to look to see what was going on. They just filled them in. And
even though it's leveled, there are probably people that still go there and visit and will walk away saying, I saw something or I heard something, or there's still something underground there that's
absolutely
moving around.
Well, here's the weird thing. Not the weird, they don't even have to go there. There's people that live on top of it. They built $1 million homes on top of probably what I consider one of the most haunted places in Michigan. $1 million homes. I'm like, no, because you know something. Too many bad things have gone, too many bad things that we know of on paper, like legit bad things have gone on there.
Yeah.
Forget the stuff we don't know about. Like, why was there a room full of candles down there? And why was there weird symbols on the wall? Like, I don't need to see that. It was crazy, crazy stuff.
That's like often people that live in a close proximity to a cemetery.
Yeah.
and all, depending on the weather and the winds and all, they'll talk about hearing things.
Oh
And
yeah.
especially this time of the year. There's also talk of the Drake Hotel in downtown Chicago, which is one of
Yep.
the oldest
A great hotel.
luxury hotels in the country.
I've
Uh,
stayed there.
it was built back in 1920, and also during the Roaring 20 times and everything, the show lounges and everything there had people like Frank Sinatra and Dean Martin and Marilyn Monroe would visit there. All they say that today, sometimes late at night, people that stay there that get up because of insomnia or whatever will walk the halls and they hear, Dean Martin singing.
That's
They,
not a bad thing.
especially because some of the show lounges are closed, but they're big rooms
Mhm.
where they would entertain, and people would swear that they heard music playing and these old crooners singing in the show lounges in the middle of the night when the show lounges were closed.
I'm
To
not. I
this
mean, hey,
day.
I wish I could wake up and hear Dean Martin sing. I'd be okay with that. I'd be like, hey, this is a good hotel, you know.
Yeah, yeah. And listen, hey, the price is right.
We stayed at a hotel in Philly, and I wish I could remember the name of it. And I'm sure if you guys Google haunted hotels in Philadelphia, this one pops up. Very similar situation to the Drake, old, been around forever. We knew that there was allegedly stuff, but everything that we read, and that's not why we stayed there. We just stayed there because it was an awesome hotel and I was a tourist, you know. But when you read about it, it really didn't talk about a lot of bad things. It was just maybe you see a maid walking down the hall and then she disappears. Maybe you see, a knock at the door or something like that. So
Right.
I was like, whatever. But it was after a long night of drinking and partying. And we went back to the hotel and I was dating this girl. She lived in Philly, but we were just hanging around. And we went back, went to bed. I woke up super hot, like sweaty. Just assume I drank too much. And, my body was like, bro, you're going to have a rough night.
Right.
But I kept on like seeing a shadow by the bathroom go back and forth. I went back to bed and I was like, yeah, I'm done. The next night, I didn't drink nearly as much, obviously. And I still had some, but we just called it an early night and she doesn't drink. So we were hanging out and then we both went to bed and I got startled and I woke up in a sweat. And I looked over at the bathroom and I saw a black shadowy figure. The best way I can describe this figure, guys, he was pacing back and forth like a caged lion. And I couldn't see eyes. I couldn't see face. I just knew it was a dude. It was a man. It felt real enough that somebody was in our hotel. And it's like when you're looking at the room and you see him going back and forth in the bathroom. And I yelled. I was like, what the? I'm not going to say what I said. And so I went to get up. I was like, I guess this is happening, And he looked, but I still didn't see a face. And something came over me like, you're not going to go over there. This is not what you think it is. She woke up and she saw it and she jumped. And I was like, I don't know what this is. And she was like white. I mean, white.
The didn't look a little like her father, did it?
No, her dad is a lot shorter. And
Oh.
he just stared at me, but it was all black. And the best way to describe it is if you guys ever watch WWE wrestling, think of the Undertaker back, but not the modern day Undertaker, the 80s Undertaker. Looked like he had a hat on, and I swear I could see, but you couldn't make out anything. And that was the weird thing. But it just got this negative, pissed off energy coming from it. And I didn't know what to do, but he never walked out of that area. It just paced back and forth. So I threw a Bible at it.
Oh, because there's always one in the nightstand.
Always Gideon Bible, man. I opened it up and I was like, I probably should have started reading it, but I'm like, I've seen these movies, and I chuck it, nothing. And the thing was, it went in the direction that it should have hit him or startled him, and it just kind of hit the back door. And And I'm like, whoa. And finally I was like, you gotta go, you gotta leave, you gotta get, and I just start, and it just like, it went to pace and never came back. Needless to say, the rest of the night, all the lights are on. I did not walk over there till the sun came up. And then I walked over there and looked in the bathroom, nothing. I went downstairs because we only stayed 2 nights there. Went downstairs to check out, told him, and the guy was like, yeah, we've heard of that. And I'm like, what?
Why didn't you tell me that up
Why
front?
did you give me a warning, dude? And they're like, we actually don't even have an explanation. There's no story. Like, they have a story for the bellhop that keeps coming. They have a story for a maid, but they don't have a story about the Undertaker. And so I looked at him, I said, dude, on your website, it talks about all the sightings. You never mentioned that. And they're like, well, yeah, we got to make money, you know?
Did you ever go out with that girl again?
We dated for a long time. She's awesome, man. I mean, I screwed it up. Don't worry, guys. No,
Yeah,
you know,
you call her up at Halloween every year,
no,
just
no,
to
no,
reminisce.
I don't call her. I don't think she wants to talk to me. But let's just say I screwed that one up. But no, we dated for a long time. She was great. We didn't stay at that hotel again, but yeah, there's places like that though. And I, to this day, like when I talk about that story, and I've talked about it on the podcast, I remember it detail. Like it's there. Had I been the only one that's seen it, maybe I could sit there and start to go in my head, okay, I was tired. But the fact that she woke up and instantly like let out a little like holy, and her face just went white. I was like, okay, like I'm not crazy. This is happening.
Well, and this is the time too when you can walk by dark parks, you can go over bridges almost any time, but for some reason at Halloween they take on a new character, and you kind of get that feeling. Maybe it's that little chill in the air and that little breeze or whatever, but you walk away swearing that you heard something under the bridge, or
and you probably did. The reality is 90% of the time, 95% of the time, maybe 98% of the time, it's absolutely explainable. We can't explain it because our minds aren't there. I've heard things camping and I'm like, okay, that was not an animal. How do I know it's not an animal?
Right. Well, your imagination told you it wasn't.
Right. I'm like, that is Jason, but when you go to and I've gone to other abandoned buildings. I did a lot of urban exploring before, and I've gone to abandoned buildings and I've gotten nothing, just a creepy old building, nothing there. We've gone to abandoned buildings and I've been like, the scariest part about the abandoned building is that we could get caught. Like, that's it. But you go to the insane asylum, or on my latest episode, shameless plug, of the Life of an Average Joe podcast, we talk about going to one of the most haunted places in the country, the Waverly Hills Sanitarium, which is crazy place in Kentucky. If anybody has ever heard of it, holy crap. And you can go there. We did. And I could tell you right now, that place is haunted. Hands down, there's something there.
Well, I found one that you have got to put on your bucket list. It's in Ireland, and it's called
let's go.
It's called the Leap Castle, and it was built in the 15th century. So this is the 1400s, and it was built by some brothers. One of the brothers was a priest, and they got into an argument about how to build the castle, and the one brother kills the other brother, stabs him to death.
The priest killed him?
The priest was the brother that was killed.
Okay.
Well, the story was around, for decades, but during the 1920s, they went in to renovate this castle. Now, it was built in the 1400s, renovated in the 1920s, and they discovered a trap door in the castle that went down to a spike-filled dungeon, and they removed 5 truckloads of bones. So talk about something that
wow.
I mean, spooky. 5 truckloads of bones. it's hard to even imagine how many bodies there were, but that's how they got rid of them. Open the trap door, drop them down into a spike-filled dungeon, and they're gone.
That's a movie right there. That's a movie in the
Yes.
making. You know what I mean? I would love to, and I was in Ireland, years ago. Dang it, I should have gone. I do have a bucket list, a top pinnacle horror Brandon bucket list, and that's going to Dracula's Castle. It's still there, not a lot of it, but just the surrounding town. And for those of you that may not realize it, because you guys don't read a book, Count Dracula was real. Vlad the Impaler was real.
Yep.
Okay, guys, where do you think the legend came from? But that town around it, the mystery and history, and probably shouldn't go anytime soon, but that town around it, man, there are some things there that they talk about. And there's villagers in that town that still believe, number one, that vampires have ruled at Rome. They still practice and they see things come out of the castle. And I'm like, sign me up. I want to go there. Yeah. So I do think, it's going to happen one day. I'm going to go. Maybe when I go to Germany, I'll just make a hop, skip, and a jump. It's not really a hop, skip, and a jump, but I guess I should look at a map once in a while. But, I can get there. So
just ask some little spooky character on the side of the road.
Yeah. I just think like when you look at history and you look at one of the most notorious characters in our history, there's thousands of them. But when you think about it and you think about where those legends came from, and you're telling me a guy who sat there and impaled his enemies and decorated his castle with their heads and drank his enemies' blood, you're telling me that place isn't haunted? Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well, we hope all of you have a great Halloween this evening, and all go out with the kids, have a great time. One positive note that we will share with you is make sure as a parent, you just check out all the candy and all the kids come home with. I remember when we were kids, we would get oranges and apples and stuff. That's pretty much a no now, because you don't
just
know
throw
if
it
it's
away.
been so anything that's not wrapped, get rid of it. And all, but go out, have a great time, enjoy it. If you see something spooky, tell all your friends about it.
Absolutely. And we want to hear about your costumes too. Like, what are you doing? Like, did you get super creative? Are you lazy? Do you not dress up anymore because you think you shouldn't? Man, just do it. You don't have kids, but you're in a neighborhood and you're participating, put something on. Like, it is a great time to just have fun. If you're not even into the scary stuff, there's so many different funny costumes that you can come up with, just to enjoy it and all that. I mean, I don't know. It's the greatest holiday of the year.
And then come back next Tuesday and tell us all about it.
Yeah.
Okay. Go out and make it a good one. Happy Halloween, everyone.